Welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine, and this is your daily show. I'm your host, Khalid Moin. This is the show where we talk about all the major talking points in South African cricket. Now, I'm sitting here in front of you today with some excellent news. News that broke over midnight last night about Cricket South Africa and the Members' Council coming to an agreement with the interim board. And what's brilliant about that is that we might not see South Africa get banned, or most likely won't see South Africa get banned from international cricket because of the situation currently. So I'm going to be reading you out the press statement first and foremost to get this started, and then I'm going to get some guests on the show to be able to give you some insight into this new governance structure. So, the Members' Council and the Interim Board of CSA met last night or yesterday to deal with all outstanding issues related to the amending Cricket South Africa's Memorandum of Incorporation. The Members' Council and the Board are very pleased to announce that the crisis has been averted and agreement has been reached on all those outstanding issues. This agreement will now trigger an expedited process to adopt the MOI in terms of the Companies Act S60 within 48 hours. By reaching this agreement, Cricket South Africa has adopted a governance model, which is a better practice for both South Africa and internationally. And then there were some quotes, obviously, from Richard, from Marie and Richards, and as well as Mr. Nicolau, giving their thoughts on the whole thing and saying that they've obviously basically have to just give things to Mr. Ntetwa now, and then from there on, we're going to move and then we'll come up with a decision. But the final conclusion, basically, that is important over here is that once the S60 process has run its course, CSA's Members' Council and the Interim Board will host a joint press conference, and then the amended MOI will be made public, which is very important to us because we want transparency to get an understanding of what is going on. So until then, CSA said that they're not going to be having any comment going forward. And in the interest of transparency, the Members' Council and the Interim Board will be sharing the amended MOI with all cricket stakeholders, including SASCOC. So there's going to be a very transparent view on all of this. So a lot of us will be able to get an understanding of what is actually going on over here. So nobody wants to see the Proteas banned. None of us, of course, don't want to see the Proteas banned. I mean, they're a massive entity in world cricket. And it looks like South Africa has been saved. South African cricket has been saved for now. What the governance structure actually means and how it's going to be structured and what actually is going to be taking place with regards to that is yet to be seen. We can make some assumptions and from a basic understanding of how other governance structures work. So that's what we're going to be doing today, and that's why I'm going to be bringing my guests on the show. But before we get on the show, first and foremost, to give us a better understanding of everything that has taken place, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to click the notification bell for all future videos. So let's get into that. Let me welcome on board to the show. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey,
good to see you.
How's it going?
Good, much better. I'm smiling now that we know that this is over. And because it has been keeping me up thinking about what is going to happen, because if South Africa gets banned, it affects all of us. Not only does it affect cricket fans and people that are watching, it also will affect businesses like ourselves as well, because if there's no cricket to report about and talk about and no national team
report on the rebel tours.
Yeah, they will have to talk about rebel tours. So Paul, I wanted to get you on the show specifically because I know that your understanding of this governance model and the way things have gone is a lot more in depth than mine. And we've actually had conversations about this off air, about certain things that you've cleared up with the group as well, not only with the group, with all of us. So when it comes to a governance model, how do you see it being implemented?
So I think the one thing that obviously we don't know is what, because obviously we know that they were fighting over majority independence, and the Members' Council wanted cricket people, more cricket people than actually independent people who are business people, lawyers, and the like in the board. And also the other big point was having an independent chairperson of the board. So the question, obviously, with all of us, because I was surprised, I didn't even know that they were having talks yesterday, because the only press release that came out was SASCOC's one. So with this release, it kind of implies that they've gotten into an agreement on a majority board and also a majority independent chair or an independent chairman to run the board, which goes against everything that's happening in South African sport, because this is the first time we will have seen this in South African sport, because this happens only in business. It doesn't happen in sport. So that's the first thing, and I'm going to go back to that point. But that's the governance model, to try and keep everybody in check, because previously what would have happened is that cricket people would have led the discussion in the board. They would have brought proposals, and those proposals essentially, regardless of whatever the independent people did on the board, because it was a 5 members council, 2 independence structure, with some execs there included in there. But obviously it creates a power block for the members council to push through whatever they wanted to do. And you wanted a bit of a balance to keep everybody in check and to keep everyone holding each other accountable. And that's what you wanted. You wanted more of a balanced board with all the necessary skills you needed to run the CSA, rather than just having the members council. And if it's all about politics and there's the members council have an agenda, it comes through. Or if you have an executive whom the members council have selected, that kind of forces the situation we're in. But the most important thing here in the MOI that we need to look at is the nominations process and selection of members on the board of CSA. So essentially, the members council will have their 5 that they'll always pick, but what will happen for the independent people is that they'll go through a nominations process. That nominations process will be run by a panel. That panel will have a representative from the players, a representative from the members council, a representative from CSA, as well as a representative of a representative from one of the Institute of Directors in South Africa, which is an institute that kind of gives directors guidance as to what they need to do, and also a member from the Law Council, as well as a member from the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, which I'm a part of. And so that will kind of create that nominations process and help you weed out the best candidates from the independent pool. Because I think the biggest worry was that the independents will just give people any random person who may not understand how the game goes, but B, may have some sort of agenda. So it's a much more fair and open process. So we're happy about that. So those are the things. I'm not sure about the other ones. The one point was having this structure go down to the affiliates. I don't think it was practical. Having majority independence in the affiliates. Unions still need to be able to select their leadership and do things that way. So I think for me, that's a key thing that we need to look at, the nominations process. But I'm happy that they've gotten to an agreement. Here's the big issue: SASCOC. Yes, they told us that they're going to take 48 hours to do the Section 60, Section 60 in the Companies Act. Which governs how you do amendments of the MOI. You need a special resolution of 75%. And once that goes through, and I'm sure they voted it yesterday, you apply for it and you'll get it within 48 hours. You'll have an amended MOI. The company secretary will have to sign off, which I think is why they needed the 48 hours, because you've got a public holiday tomorrow. That's the one thing. So then once that comes out, SASCOC told us in their press release yesterday morning that they needed to approve, and everyone's been talking about SASCOC approving the MOI. This new structure, this new governance model that is best practice and internationally based and everything else, still needs the rubber stamp from SASCOC. That now takes the ball from CSA, Members Council, Interim Board, to now being the minister versus SASCOC. The minister wants this new MOI to come through, but SASCOC has told us, even in the press conference, that they are against a majority independent board. They want sport people to run sport. So that's where the battlefield's going to move. It's the minister versus the National Federation. And I think that's something we need to just watch out for. The SASCOC might just pull away, like they did with the letter they sent on the 19th of February, giving the minister all the powers to run the show. The only problem is that this creates a massive precedent for other underperforming sporting unions to now come under the pump and come under the gun. Yeah. One of them might be South African rugby. Everyone sees the Rugby World Cup. We see something else on the backside. So too South African Football Association. And it creates a massive precedent, even for future ministers, to enter into affairs if things aren't going their way. And that's what the one thing that SASCOC kind of spoke about, was that sometimes when you don't get the answer you want, You can't just go and try and change the process and hold people at gunpoint, essentially, like what the minister did, to be able to do this. So there might be some legal challenges. I'm just also very wary about the members, the unions who were vehemently against this now coming around. It's not like these guys were all of a sudden had a Damascus moment. They met Jesus on the way and decided to change. Something forced them to change. There's a strategy that they probably are employing that might come with SASCOC coming to undercut this thing and making this MOI invalid, because it could be invalidated by the fact that the National Federation may not recognize it. And then the National Federation can use Section 13 to make CSA so there could be a little bit of a power play, but for now, we're happy that everything is comfortable. Then now, obviously, now the question is SASCOC going to fight this? If not, we're moving into a new era in South African sport, and well done to everybody in the Members Council and in the interim board to be able to move us forward, because this is now what we want in our sport. You want every stakeholder to be accounted for, because I think in business, they talk about the integrated stakeholder model, which takes into account all the stakeholders. And some of the stakeholders, everyone just thinks shareholders need to be taken into account, just like we saw at the Super League, the fans need to be considered, which is you and me. Even in the South African system, sporting system like cricket, fans need to be considered, and so to government as well. And so in essence, this new model makes sure that all the other stakeholders will be taken into account, because having all those independents, it's kind of like the German football model, having a 50+1 fan vote governing and start vetoing things like a Super League or some dumb things that could happen. And that is what you want with the majority independence. It kind of gives you that safeguard. Those independent share directors will be holding our interests to make sure that that the game is run well and in the right parts. And so that's why I'm happy about this new model.
Yeah, I think also from the Members Council's point of view, they've now shifted the pressure back onto the minister now, because now he's going to be public enemy number one if he bans cricket still, or he goes and has clashes with SASCOC and things go crazy from there. Like it's kind of also protection from their part as well. But yes, I think that because the majority of the guys voted in favor, I think that also gives it a lot of legs behind it and a lot of weight behind.
But this is not going to be the last time we see those 6 unions that voted against trying to change it. I think they're realizing that they're probably falling behind SASCOC. I think that SASCOC press release was a warning shot to the minister. So those 6 members just could have voted just because they needed to push this through, but knowing in the back end that SASCOC's got their back. So that's going to be a test. But the other thing that you got to consider with the minister, which is something many don't say, he did quite well. The interesting thing about it is that the minister knew that we've got all these public holidays happening around here, and the Gazette comes out on a certain day. I think it comes out on Fridays, right? Unless if it's a special situation. And so he purposefully banned SA cricket on the Friday. Remember, he was talking about the whole week, even on the Tuesday, coming up last week Tuesday, and he only banned them on the Friday. And I think that was the most important one, because obviously you've got the weekend and you've got Monday, which is technically today, many people took as a long weekend. You've got Freedom Day tomorrow, which is a public holiday. Nobody works in government. And then on Wednesday, that's only when the process can actually start to ban. So essentially, he was bluffing. He was playing poker with everybody, but he gave them time, and he said it in the press conference: if you guys sort your stuff out before next week, before we do this, I will stop the process. So I think that's something that's pretty good. There's a villain in the corner who's waiting. That is SASCOC. I don't know which type of cartoon movies or things people watch, but there's somebody sitting there in the corner. And that's the South African Federation, the National Federation. And they might just say, no, we don't want this.
Yeah. So Aditya, I'm going to welcome you to the show. Welcome to the show, brother. From your point of view, I just want to get some insight from an India perspective. How does the BCCI run its governance? Its system when it comes to these type of things?
It's complicated, but essentially you've got a president and they've got their own cabinet, like secretary and treasurer and all of that, and then you've got your state associations, and the money, the revenue that the Indian cricket team collects over a period of time is ultimately flowing down into the associations. And it works the same way with the IPL, where I think the BCCI makes about I think $700 million a year on the IPL. So all of that money is distributed. Um, it's distributed as profit for the franchises, and then it's flowing down into the system and strengthening domestic cricket. But in saying that, like we've talked about politics and the administration of cricket in South Africa. It's pretty much the same in India as well. And in fact, the secretary of the BCCI is a man called Jay Shah, who happens to be the son of the Union Minister of India, the Home Minister of India, a man called Amit Shah. So he's essentially the Prime Minister's right-hand man. And through the years, have always sort of gone hand in hand in India. Whether that's, I'm not so sure if I'm not so sure if that's great, but for the sake of cricket in this country, because of its immense popularity, it has worked. But in saying that, governance is always murky in cricket in this country, and I think people just tend to sort of stay away from it, and focus on the cricket.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we all need to do now. Is now we can finally focus on the cricket. Or until we get the final announcement at the press release and all of those type of things, we can now start to almost focus on the cricket.
Well, it's not necessarily. Well, we can. We can, but at least now
it's not 100% over, but at least.
Yeah. Because obviously we still need to nominate. People need to nominate the members, the new directors. So anybody who's on the interim board can't be nominated. They need to nominate independent directors, and they need to have an AGM. So the AGM will happen, I'm sure, in the next 2 weeks. Once that AGM happens, we can then go back to some sort of normality from a strategy perspective. Because I think the biggest problem with CSA is that they have in this past 18 months, they haven't been able to look 5 or 10 years ahead. They've always had to look for the now. It's always, what's the next series? What's the next thing that can bring us revenue? To a certain extent, COVID kind of affected that, and it still is. But now it's we need a 3-year plan. We need a 5-year plan. We need to put in we've got like CSA has an interim CEO. We need to make permanent appointments. The only person who's permanent there is Graham Smith and Mark Boucher. That was a funny joke that the people on the field are the ones who are permanent. But yeah, so we need those appointments. We need to move forward. We then need these guys to go forward. And funny enough, obviously, the first thing that I think the executive need to sort out in this next year is what's going on with Graham's contract. Obviously, COVID's kind of taken a year away. His contract's ending a year before the World Cup, the 2023 World Cup next year. So those are the discussions that need to be put in place right now. To either extend it or keep him. And those are the first decisions that we're going to be looking to, on top of probably sorting out a broadcast deal for the domestic cricket, for the domestic game, and also maybe even trying to figure out a way to get more women's cricket on the television and more widespread, because they are a very important entity, and they can bring in some revenue.
Yeah, I have a question for the both of you.
Yeah.
Really quickly, the South Africa have digital avenues, like apps that can broadcast live sport? Like we do here in India.
It's not like it's rocket science. It's just that SuperSport's such a monopoly that
they own most of the rights to domestic cricket and South African cricket. Yeah.
No, they own everything.
So
everything.
Yeah.
Any cricket on TV, they pick and choose what they want to have on. So that's why some of the women's games were never on before they became like close to being world champions.
Right.
Yeah. So because SuperSport, because SuperSport owns majority of all of the rights to South African cricket, other than school cricket, really. But now with the new school channel that's coming out now, they're probably going to own school cricket too. So they basically own the whole monopoly, and that was the whole fight with the Global T20 League, because Aaron Logat obviously wanted to get his own guys involved with regards to giving broadcasting rights, and that was the whole fight because SuperSport wanted majority hold. And I think that particular challenge that was happening is the main reason why that one of the main reasons that tournament collapsed is because of the TV rights, I feel. And even with the Mzansi Super League, the amount of promotion that it got was also kind of kicked back because SABC was the main sponsors. They took the sponsorship away from SuperSport. SuperSport didn't show an ounce of, not even a second of Mzansi Super League on any of their platforms. And never spoke about it, nothing because of that contract. So the monopoly is crazy. I mean, digital companies, even if they wanted to, like for example, Pitch Vision shows a lot of the streams because from a statistical point of view for players, it's supposed to be for coaches, it's supposed to be for teams analysis, etc. But they've also released it to fans to be able to see that content as well. But they can't release anything of high caliber, of high quality, for example, with commentary, etc. always. And because of that, because SuperSport owns the rights to things. So literally the only way you can watch cricket in South Africa is if you're going to spend a lot of money to watch SuperSport. The DSTV subscription. That's the only way you can actually be able to see it.
And that global T20 is one of the reasons why we're in this mess in the first place, because people started speaking up as to why SuperSport weren't given the rights. Obviously, the first edition, everybody arrived. I think we were about to have a draft, but the broadcast rights were not sorted out, and they'd already given franchises to people around the world, to billionaires around the world. And they hadn't bedded down the SuperSport contract. I think Harun Logard wasn't happy about the price. And so that didn't work out. And so the second time when Tabang came in and tried to resurrect it and called them Mzansi Super League, SuperSport said, no, we want to be shareholders in this. We don't want to be just broadcast partners, which effectively takes an element of revenue away from what CSA were hoping, because you don't want to give away your equity to the person because you're only going to get this product at cost. And so that's why then they decided, and one of the decisions was to go and look at SABC, but sell it to a commercial entity or an international entity to sell the broadcast rights internationally, but then also give it to the SABC at a much lesser price than what SuperSport were offering. I think SuperSport were offering 75 million for the tournament, which is very low, in my opinion. But the SABC were paying them a little bit less at about just under about close to 20 mil, even nothing. And so that's where the problem came in, because obviously from an SABC point of view, you've got millions of people watching cricket, whereas in the SuperSport point of view, it's only like 2 million people watching, but those 2 million people give you a lot of revenue. So that's the dichotomy, and right now I think the plan will always be SuperSport. And it's really hard for somebody to come in and run digital rights. You need CSA to kind of split them up, but they don't want to. I've been in meetings with them asking them to split it up. They've refused. So Pitch Vision just get all the the emerging games, all the smaller ones, and they've just added an element of commentary as well, which I help do when they call me up. So yeah.
And also, Aditya, that's why you see with regards to the Mzansi Super League, even our domestic structure, they try to sell the rights to guys like Star Sports Cricket and the guys in India as well, because we know that there's a massive Indian following that follows South African cricket. So that's what they've been having to do with us, because it's not a direct competitor necessarily to SuperSport, because ultimately SuperSport is Africa. So the majority of the people are going to be signing on there anyway. So that's the current situation. And because it's easier, I feel, for India to be able to put in those digital type of streaming services because of the amount of people that are supporting cricket in your country. I mean, we are only a fraction of what your population of cricket fans are in your country alone. So it makes sense in India. You know what I mean?
But, if in one of the pieces I'd done previously on women's cricket, where I'd given out a couple of numbers, with respect to cable and digital. When I was watching the South Africa Pakistan series, and digitally they have a number on the side for the number of people who are currently live, and at any given time there were at least like 200,000 people, 300,000 people watching just digitally. We're not even talking about cable. And with the IPL right now, at any given stage, whenever I'm watching digitally, there are at least like 6 million viewers at that moment. And I feel like a part of that reason is because, is that cricket is delivered to an individual's cell phone or a laptop or an iPad, where you have a Hotstar subscription and you can watch cricket. That's it. And I feel like that that model might work for South Africa, because people may not find it particularly uh, financially wise to have a super sports subscription on DSTV, but if you have a Hotstar subscription, it's like Netflix. You have live sport, you have movies, and a bunch of others. So it makes more sense to invest your money.
Yeah, so Aditya, you're talking about Netflix. There were massive problems over here about Netflix as well with DSTV. They wanted to cancel Netflix from coming here as well. Like, they didn't want Netflix to open up to South Africa at all. So there was massive fights between DSTV, who owns SuperSport ultimately, and so there was massive, because MultiChoice owns basically the whole company. So there was massive fights between that as well, because they wanted to launch their own thing called Showmax. So there's a constant fight when it comes to TV streaming, all of those things in South Africa, because of who owns the monopoly. They might not own all the viewers, because SABC and ETV and all of those free television stations still own the majority of the views, because majority of the people watch those channels because it's free, and you just pay a TV license. But the monopoly is still there because of how expensive SuperSport is, and so you don't need as many subscriptions or as many clients to make $1 billion company, for example. So that's the kind of situation that we need to sort out as well.
Yeah, and to kind of break it down a little bit, SABC has rights for the Premier League, right? But they can only show one game on a Saturday, because that's all they can afford. And the SABC has a digital platform as well, and you can go digitally on your phone and watch these games. I was watching the National Women's Soccer League on my phone the other day on SABC. The only problem is that they don't have the money, and the main reason is that they needed to try and open up more channels, and they've done that with this online platform, but they also need to open up more channels on TV. Once they do that, they can sell advertising revenue and they can compete with SuperSport. The question, obviously, the quality of the product at SuperSport is much better. SuperSport have been would come out and they would try and protect what they have, and as a business you would want that. So essentially, as SABC becomes a little bit better, much better governance from the SABC, you're going to see a little bit more of them fighting for cricket rights. And the one place where I'd say they should fight is in the domestic scene. Try fight for that domestic contract in order to be able to get some viewers watching cricket at a cheaper rate on your phone. And that's the great thing that we wanted from SABC, and they've done it now with a lot of pilots. It's like there's like French rugby on SABC right now if you go SABC online, but it's free for everyone, which kind of helps.
So guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. That's all we have for you today. Thanks a lot, Aditya, for coming, giving your insights, and Mpo as well for giving us some insights into how everything is working currently. I think it's a good turnaround for South African cricket. Luckily, we are not, most likely we won't get banned, I don't think, right now. So luckily, that's where we're sitting at the moment. So at least we can dream a little dream, all of us together. So thanks a lot for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, click that notification bell for all future videos, and go to cricketfanaticsmag.com for all your updates. We have an excellent guest on the show tomorrow, on the daily show tomorrow. So I'm very excited for that one. So tune in tomorrow at the same time, 10 to 6 for that particular exclusive interview on Cricket Fanatics Magazine. I don't think anybody else has actually interviewed this guy over the last couple of year or so. I'm talking about video-wise. I'm not sure if they obviously did some written content, but when it comes to video content and a live interview, it hasn't happened quite yet over the last couple of days. So please, guys, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell so you can get that update for that. I hope you guys have an excellent evening, and I'll see you again tomorrow with another daily show. Take care, everybody.